Feister.
Yep, you got it right.
I just want to make sure I'm saying your last name right.
Yeah, you got it, man. I appreciate the check.
We're live.
Greetings, everyone. Nathan Nerdarchy here from Nerdarchy, for Nerds by Nerds. With me, I have Nerdarchist Dave and our guest from Open Legends, Brian Feister.
Hey, how's it going, Nate?
And we're just going to be, hey, Brian, we're just going to be doing a Q&A and just kind of hang out with him, answer any questions the fans may have, as well as anything he wants to get across to us.
Sure.
So, Brian, I'm new to the Open Legends, as in I know the name and I know it's a more open system. And I've watched our Nerdarchy videos that I was not in, and that's it.
No worries.
I know your Kickstarters, you know, that went well. So
it did go well. Oh, you guys there?
So, what would you want to get across to people about it?
Oh, I think I don't know, your video cut out for me for a second there, but anyway, back now. So first thing, since you said you're new to Open Legend and everything, I'll fix one of the most common introductory assumptions, which is that it's plural. It's singular. I'll just save me from saying that for the rest of the
Open
show.
Legend.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No big deal. But I just that's actually funny because there's a lot of people who like call it Open Legends, and then it's just a funny like internal thing in our community. But anyway, yeah. So what can I? Okay. So you kind of cut out there. Could you repeat your last question, because the video did kind of drop for me?
All right. So if you had to describe Open Legend in a paragraph or so, what would you want to get across to people? What it's about?
Open Legend is about, it's a game that focuses on the fun aspect of role-playing. So you have a lot of different role-playing games, and some focus on like simulationism or like realism. Open Legend is much more on the story-focused end and the sort of fun end of things. Also, it's story-driven, and we want to empower the players to tell any story, not just a story that's hard-coded into the rules. So one of the big things that's different with Open Legend is, you don't have a spell book where, you have a fireball spell that has this really specific thing around it. Instead, we just define like attributes, and those attributes can do damage, and they can do other things like cause somebody to not be able to move or to get blown back or something like that. And so instead of spell book and that sort of aspect, or like hard-coded rules, those banes can be accessed from many different directions, and how you flavor them is up to you. And that's what Open Legends is all about, is because we say, hey, here's a limiting factor so that we can all sit down and have an agreement, like a kind of, a mutual contract among all the people that are sitting down playing, like, hey, we agree that, killing somebody outright is like a powerful ability, like a death attack. So that's power level 9, which is like the highest level, power in Open Legend, right? And so we agree to those things, but the mechanics of, is that poison that killed them? Is that like some sort of entropy effect, like heart stopping or something like that? All that kind of thing is left to the players and is just suggested in the rules, but it's left completely open-ended as to like, tell the story however you want to. So that's more than a paragraph.
Really cool.
But
that's all right. You had me with the open, the type of spell, able to choose what you do and the aspect of it. Is the spell divided up into several segments, or would you say, like, for example, if I wanted to, like, okay, nine level power, and you want to stop somebody's heart, that's kind of necromantic. So is there a kind of negative entropy energy, and then there's like a fire energy? Like, do you advance in those separately?
Yeah. So in Open Legend, we've combined all elemental energy types into one. So if you take the energy attribute, which is what we call it, it's just called energy, you can choose whether that's fire or lightning or cold or whatever, and they're all in the same bucket, so to speak. And then there's a separate one which is also just called entropy. And so basically stopping someone's heart. So the death bane has a prerequisite of a number of different attributes, right? And so one of those is entropy, which is necromantic, like you said. And then like energy, the fire aspect, does not give you access to the bane, to the death bane, right? Because that's more of a, like we said, like a necromantic thing or like an assassination type thing or something like that.
So an energy spell that's really high level would just simply be a tremendous amount of damage, or it
does a lot. It does a lot of damage
or a large area.
Yep. Those are and so damage and area in Open Legend are something that's sort of set across the board. So basically, there's no actual spell. It's like we attach effects, like the effect of persistent damage, for example, means that you continue to burn round after round from the fireball. So that's like one aspect. But the damage from it is actually not part of the spell. That your attribute just gives you a flat like damage dice set. So like if you have energy 9, then you roll the d20, which we always roll, and then plus 3d10. And all those dice explode, and so you can imagine there's a potential for a lot of damage. And sure, that's fine. It's fine, Dave.
Now you said something about exploding dice. I know we're going down the spell path right now because that let's be honest, that's what I really want to do. Psionics are spells, flaming swords and tanks are really cool, but I'm kind of into that. So
I think there's two things we need to acknowledge first. One is Brian's magnificent beard. It also should have its own window, to be honest with you.
Let's see. Can I get my? Let's see. Does this help? Here we go. Yeah. Anyway.
And we like to do a little roll call here to see where people are from. We already got at least one person in the chat saying they want to try this game out. Another person said the Running Sunday, the game. So that's very cool. Nice. But where's everybody from at? Let Brian know. This is always the fun part to see where the corners of the world we're actually reaching into.
Absolutely. What and I for some reason in my window I cannot see Q&A or chat, so you guys have to feed those to me.
I have it up here. And
cool.
Actually, I don't know if there's a way to put it in here with us or not. I end up popping it out and pulling up a separate screen.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's amazing I'm able to do anything, to be honest with you. I think we got Montana, Miami, Somerset County, New Jersey. Hey, Brian's right in Delaware, right down the street from you, buddy.
Yeah.
Boise, Jacksonville, Belgium, Nebraska, Cleveland, North Florida, Sacramento.
Wow.
More Jersey in the house, Sweden, Netherlands, Fort Wayne, Indiana, California.
Nice.
Lake Cross, Georgia, Toronto, Canada. So they're all over the place, which is one of the fun things about doing the live chat. I love seeing, where we can actually get to. Phantom Zone represent. Nice.
Nice. That's great.
We have a transplant in Canada from New Jersey, from Asbury Park, which is cool as well.
Nice. I opened a separate window so I can't see the chat finally, so that's good.
We got Greece in the house at Dallas, Texas. Hey guys, we want to thank all of you for tuning in. If you got questions for Brian, if you're not familiar with Open Legend, this is your chance to get familiar. And in the description, I have a link to the website where you can actually check out the game for free. So that's really cool. As Ted said, or not Ted, the other Nerdarchy person, Nate said, he had run a very successful Kickstarter for an actual physical copy of the book, as well as the Amoria. How do you say it?
Amoria. Yeah.
Amoria's Dawn campaign setting, which you had a little help with that from some people you guys may or may not have heard of. I'm not sure.
Yeah. You might have heard of them.
Yeah, Ed Greenwood and Matt Mercer. And so both are cool. I'm a little more excited, being an old head, I'm a little bit more excited about Ed Greenwood, the grandfather of Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
As am I.
Yeah, Illuminster himself. And rumor is, once the system actually comes out, Nerdarchy will be giving away a signed copy, which will be super awesome. And we thank you, Brian, for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will go back from interrupting Nate and
But you can keep going. Okay, so I think we were talking about exploding dice and spells of doom.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I heard about the exploded dice. I'm assuming what that means, but why don't you let us know?
Oh, yeah. So in Open Legend, so one of the things that so there's a lot of different aspects to the system. You know, it's always hard when somebody asks you to sort of sum it up, because there's like, it started with a few things and then it grew into so many different things that I wanted to do. But exploding dice is one of them. So for anyone who's not familiar with systems like, you know, Legend of the Five Rings and Deadlands, these systems have exploding dice. And so when you roll max, you know, you re-roll and add that or whatever. But a lot of systems, or at least my observation of the trend is, it tends to be systems where, you know, maybe it's like 5 or 6 is a success and you're trying to count like number of successes. So like if my D6 is a 5 or 6, you know, then that's one success. And then if I roll a 6, I re-roll and have a chance at another one. But Open Legend, I wanted it to be numeric because I feel like that's just a more familiar paradigm for people. You know, people play Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, and you want to count, like, you know, what is my damage total? So the dice matter, and the numeric total is what you're looking for. And then also, you know, a lot of systems will do dice pools, but they're all the same die type. And I thought that that's a shame, because I like rolling all the different type. As Dave says, you know what I mean? What are we? We're a funny shaped dice enthusiasts, according to you.
That's it.
So I like rolling all the different types of dice. So I came up with a graduated system that goes basically 0 to 9 is your attribute score, and it goes from D0 is just the D20. And then you add to that at attribute 1, you add D4, then D6, D8, D10, and then it goes to 2D6, and then 2D8, and then 2D10, and then all the way up to 3D10 at power level 9. So that's and all those dice explode. And people who have played Open Legend will tell you that you can see some really crazy fun. The fun factor is like huge. I've seen. The highest roll I personally have seen, I think, was like 75 or something like that. And then somebody on the internet told me that they rolled a 92, and it was the first roll that they ever rolled for an Open Legend game.
It's funny because you're talking about exploding dice, and our intern Kyle has said they're going to need an easy roller dice. .com/Nerdarchy dice cup in order to roll all those dice.
Exactly.
Now, with exploding dice, I'm familiar with exploding dice, and I guess White Wolf is one of the systems. And you reminded me when you're saying though, of like 5 or 6 success. One of the things that aggravated me the most about that type of exploding dice system is that if you rolled a 10 and you got to roll, you know, explode it, lets you roll another dice. Well, if you rolled a 1, that wasn't an 11.
Right.
That really irritated me. So it's like, that should be an 11. It shouldn't be worse than a 10. So,
yes. So a lot of my goal with the system was to make something that's really streamlined. You know, like I'm a computer programmer by day, and so like I have an interest in this kind of thing. And so yeah, like if in that scenario that would be an 11. And then moreover, one of my favorite parts is the fact that you only roll. You don't have to worry about 2 separate rolls, and like you do well on one and poorly on the other, because in Open Legend, attack and damage are one roll. So if you roll that 92, it's going to have that kind of epic impact, because you don't have to roll a follow-up like damage to confirm it or something like that. You know what I mean? So 92, it's just that number minus the target's defense. That's how much damage they take. Super, super simple, you know, so...
So one of the cool things that's happening in the chat is their questions are already kind of being answered. One of your minions is over there. I think a couple of your minions might be over there.
There's I think, yeah, I'm really, look, it's funny to joke about, but I'm grateful. There are kind of a lot of minions nowadays, and it's really awesome to see the community grow. So I remember a time before the Kickstarter, you know, maybe like 6 months ago, when there was like 1 or 2 particular people that would always be like lurking and answering questions or something. But now I think it's a lot more. So I appreciate everybody. I'm an animation. That's great. Cool. Anyway, sorry. So what were we? So were there questions that weren't answered? Can I
looks
help?
like late Precatorian Errol's. This system going to be supported on Roll20.
The system actually already is supported on Roll20, which is really cool.
Oh,
So there are 2 levels of support on Roll20. Even the first one's hard to achieve. So huge shout out to Jonathan Potter. He's also known as oh man, he's got great mustache on our community site and stuff like that. So he did our Roll20 character sheet, which is funny because I'm a programmer and that's the kind of thing I should be doing, but I've just been so busy, it's not even been possible for me. But he has generously donated his time, and he maintains that character sheet. So if you create a new game in Roll20, under the character sheet, you can search and select Open Legend, and that gives you a huge help in starting, playing the system, because it gives you, boxes to click for up and down. It does all the calculations for you, all that kind of stuff. So that's the first level, and then there's another level where in Roll20, like, you can create a game and label it as Open Legend. We haven't got there yet. But given how well things are going, I would assume that it shouldn't, we should be able to. And I'm in touch with the folks at Roll20. They have their own internal, process that they don't let people know about as far as how they determine the criteria of like whether a game qualifies or not. But I think it'll probably happen fairly soon, in the next 6 months or something like that. But yeah, so you can create an Open Legend. You can use the Open Legend character sheet, which is like a huge help in terms of using Roll20 with the game.
So there's a couple questions coming in. One is they're asking for examples of playing different genres than fantasy, if you have any.
Yep.
Can you? Someone would like to. There's. Let's see, what do we got here? We got Soviet Seething would like an example of an attack roll, which I find is one of the most interesting parts about the system. Like, you briefly touched on it in the sense that your attack rolls also become your damage. And
Yep.
So they'd like, I guess, you to drill down a little bit on that, and then some examples. And Comic Book University definitely wants to know if he can play, superheroes game with this. Can he make Spider-Man?
Yeah. So one of the things that that's been positive about the system, people's reaction is, and it was my goal. So when I first started working on this, I started writing this about 5 years ago, and what my goal at that time was, I had gone through 4th edition D&D. I got pretty burnout on D&D because I wasn't a 4th edition fan, and different people are different. Some people will hey, I go back to 3rd edition, whatever. I knew a lot of people who did that, but for whatever reason, me and my group, we just kind of always tracked with the current D&D edition. So, because it's well, we didn't want to go back to 3rd edition, that created for me a certain tension where I started writing Open Legend out of that. But my goal was, I wanted it to be storytelling focused so that the rules could be used to tell any story. So whether that's sci-fi or fantasy or whatever you want it to be. So that was kind of my goal, is to create a system that could be the mechanical engine that undergirds just about any story that you would see in books or movies or television or whatever. So that was my goal. So people have said that it's worked well. So far, the reaction has been really positive. Superheroes, I wanted to answer specifically, has been a thing talked about a lot. A lot of people seem to be playing superhero type characters, and some people are using it to mix genres and have fun with, the setting might be one thing, but their character, is a different genre, and personally, it's not something I do in my own role playing, but I think it's great that people have the freedom to do that kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, I would say also we have 2. So this is a little bit of a exclusive insider info that I haven't told anybody. We started writing one of our mini campaign settings. So we had 2 stretch goals that unlocked during the Kickstarter that unlocked mini campaign settings. And those are, I wanted to demonstrate the multi-genre capability of the system. And so I had a wide array of different options there for genre. And so one of the selected ones was The Legacy of 8, which is a space opera kind of sci-fi, story. we're gonna be changing the name of the Legacy of 8. It'll be a different name when it gets published, but that's one thing we're working on. And then another that we recently broke ground on was the Shores of Valhalla campaign setting. So it's a campaign setting where, and I can't give too many details because it's so early. We're still working through a lot of this stuff. But the idea is that Midgard, the Earth realm, it has been taken over. And I won't go into all the detail about what happened there, but the characters play Vanir, who are like demigods who have ascended to immortality. And when they arrive in Valhalla and Asgard, the realm is shattered. And so it's all about like this kind of post-apocalyptic Norse setting and this idea of like the real world kind of feeding upstream into Asgard and all this other stuff. So there's like, you can gain the favor of different gods, and we're talking about like runes, like halos of runes that you collect from like favor that represents different gods that are your patrons and stuff like that. So anyway, that's a little thing that we're working on lately. So that's cool.
Now, why can I not say that?
Amoria's
Dawn setting itself is, at first we thought it was like a fantasy setting, but as we were talking to you more and more, it's actually more like a fantasy steampunk setting.
Yep.
Yeah. So which is a bit different, and the system is it's like one of the things that I really appreciate that you've done as the designer, the creator, is you've been so open to feedback and have worked with the community to kind of build the game they want to play.
Yep.
I could see that even from when we played it to some of the updates you made to make the powers less fantasy based and more generic.
Yep. That's been a big thing. When I started with the system, my thought about approaching this as a first publication was, I thought if the Kickstarter just did moderately well and it was nothing huge, then I would leave the fantasy stuff in there and not sort of rewrite the rules just because of justifying like my time spent on it. But since the Kickstarter went so well, that's a thing that we really emphasized in the Kickstarter, was basically taking the kind of alpha rules that I had out there in the beginning and then sort of backing off, like you said. I've been combing through it time after time. There's still room for improvement, but taking the flavor text from the different effects and adding examples from sci-fi, examples from Wild West, examples from feudal Japanese, like settings and stuff like that, just to convey that, these don't just apply to fantasy. So yeah, that's a big thing for me. I'm really proud of where it is now. And I think it's exciting to be able to do like so many different things with it is what I was, like I said, that was my initial goal in the first place. So it's exciting to see it come to life.
So someone had asked, I think it was Yannick. Yes, Yannick asked if there's any YouTube games, or I would say Twitch as well, games that you're excited about that are going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, his game for sure. So Yannick is from Dawnforge Cast, and they're running a game, Skies Vitape, that they're publishing on their channel. So that's great. We also have the Out Crowd is happening on Hyper RPG every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, and they're doing an 80s throwback. It's like a kind of a funny, spoofy sort of thing where like all the cliches that you think of from 80s stuff, and like now we're seeing like Stranger Things, and what are the other, there was a really good film, like Super 8. I like that film personally. Okay. You know what I mean? Like that kind of like 80s throwback feel, like kind of retro. So their show is that, and it's apparent. It's like, I've seen it. It's really funny. So I highly recommend it. That's on Hyper RPG every Monday. What else is there? Encounter RolePlay is doing on their Twitch channel. Every Tuesday they're doing a ancient Roman campaign setting. So it's like Rome except with fantasy added to it. And so there's magic and stuff like that. So that's super cool. I'm trying to think. There's like I'm gonna miss people because I'm like super honored. There's so many people doing Open Legend content. So
Yannick put you on the spot. Now you gotta remember everybody.
I know. So we have. So go to YouTube/Open Legend, and we have. Is it Open Legend RPG or Open Legend? I don't remember my
RPG
channel. Yeah, so it's YouTube/Open Legend RPG, and we have some playlists there. And there's a couple things in the works as well that I'm really excited about. So one thing that we're doing is the cast is not confirmed on this. So this is like a huge caveat because the cast could change, and this is probably not going to happen for like 3-4 months or something like that. Because of my schedule and how busy I am. But I want to run a game that's like, it's run by the creator, but then we also bring in other GMs as players. But it's more of the thought is that I want to focus more on, so you have Critical Role that focuses on the, the performance aspect. Everybody in it is a performer, and that's part of it. And we want it to be entertaining, and so the performance aspect is important. But I wanted to do something that's a little bit more like breaking the fourth wall, so that, and this is not uncommon. Lots of people do this with D&D, but it's just that since Open Legend is a new system, I felt like I want to kind of throw my hat in the ring there and say like, hey, here's how I run Open Legend. But it's more of like supposed to be approachable so that people in chat can ask questions, and we'll cover those questions in like a Q&A at the end of each like session. We'll run it live on Twitch. Some of the people that are maybe involved, and again, all maybe, so no promises on this, but Andrew from Dawnforge Cast might be involved. Jasmine, that bronze girl from Hyper RPG who runs the Outcrowd is going to be involved. It's probably going to be involved. Sydney, who is my community manager, social media manager, and she also has run Open Legend on Encounter RolePlay. She's going to be one of the players. So anyway, we're working on a crew of people that are like a diverse array of GMs. And so the focus is more on like, hey, let's take take 15 seconds, take 30 seconds to talk about like the mechanics behind what just happened. And so it's a little less like of a show, and it's more like, hey, let's show people how to play games and make it feel approachable and make it feel like, I could do this too. And so that's a thought.
Let me show you the game I want to run with Open Legend. So,
yeah, let's see it,
so I kind of have this idea for a game based off of a book series that I really enjoy, and so we got Hard Luck Hang, Basket Full of Crap. Nice. We got Screw the Galaxy.
Nice.
Prince of Suck. So yeah. I want to run a like space opera on a space station.
Yeah, man.
With maybe some low level mutants in there, gangsters, and I was really inspired by that series, and I think it would be a ton of fun.
Absolutely.
I keep threatening the group with it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, well, you should do it, man. I would love to see something like that. We're going to Gen Con this year, so like my team, my like sort of inner team, which includes me and Sydney, and then Will from Encounter RolePlay, and also my lead writer Ryan Chapals, who's on Hyper RPG. We're all going to go and run games at Gen Con this year, and one of the games we're going to run is a sci-fi one, which is about kind of like your like sci-fi thriller horror kind of a thing, which is about like, of course, it's about an abandoned spaceship that everybody goes to investigate and what happens as a result. So
I might have to sneak into your luggage.
Yeah, man. Well, I would be glad to have you there. But yeah. So and to backtrack one, because I kind of went over that one question. Somebody asked about the damage and stuff and drilling into that. So let's like talk about that a little bit before I pass that question too far. So the idea is in Open Legend, every attack has the potential to be a multi-target attack. So like if you're shooting a bow, that's a projectile weapon. And the way that works is your targets have to be within 5, like, you know, 5, thinking in terms of a grid, right? So a 25-foot by 25-foot area. All of your targets have to be within that, but you can essentially attack 2 targets and take disadvantage 2 on your attack. So disadvantage and advantage is one of the major parts of the engine of how Open Legend works. So basically, advantage is something you'll typically take feats or set up certain scenarios to give you advantage. And that's just, you know, think of a +1 bonus in another system. It's similar, but the mathematical thing is more like it's +2.5. So that's a difference with Open Legend is we don't give out +1s as frequently because the size of them is bigger, right? Like the step in terms of like how much average damage increase that is larger. And so we don't give out advantage 1 very lightly. But anyway, so once you have advantage, you can then kind of spend that against, you can say like I have advantage 3 because I've taken attack specialization longsword 3, right? So now I have advantage 3 on all my longsword attacks. I can take disadvantage 3, which would essentially cancel out the advantage, just like it sort of sounds like. And then I could attack 3 targets. And with a melee attack, I could hit 3 different targets that are adjacent to me. And you know, that's how it works. But also, it applies to area attacks. So like if I'm using the energy to like release like a cone of cold, there's a cone area type. There's a square area type, and then there's a line for like a bolt of lightning that goes straight, right? So each of these grow in size, and they have a proportionate disadvantage. So basically, the cool thing is you can do a fireball level 1 in Open Legend because I can do like a 4x4 area attack or like 20x20, and that's disadvantage 4. So maybe I only have advantage 1 or advantage 2 or whatever. And so it ends up being that my attack roll takes a total of disadvantage. But because of the D20, there's always this chance, and I've seen it happen in a lot of games, which is a really fun aspect, where you're like, oh man, this is like a Hail Mary, you know, like we're all gonna die, right? And so you're like, I'm just gonna do disadvantage, 5 and attack these 5 guys and hope for the best or something. And then, you know, the D20 explodes, and you end up rolling like a total of, 30 or 40, and you just at the last moment you sort of pull it out from nowhere, pull it out of nowhere. And so anyway, so I got ahead of myself because the advantage part means that you take the attribute dice. So for example, if you have a 5, then you're going to roll 2d6 on top of your d20. And if I have advantage 1, then I'm going to roll 3d6 instead, but I only keep the same total. So if my attribute gives me 2d6, I roll 3d6, but I keep the highest 2. And then disadvantage is the inverse, right? So if I have disadvantage 1 in that scenario, I roll 3d6 and I keep the lowest 2. So in other words, disadvantage is real scary because exploding dice means you want to roll that 6 on the 2d6 to have it explode. But if you have disadvantage, that high roll is going to get pulled off the top, and you're going to take the lower ones. So it's a price to pay, but story-wise, you can tell some crazy stories about doing weird stuff that you could never do in other, in a lot of other systems or whatever.
Yeah, I don't feel like it explains well, but it plays much easier than it explains. I think it's a lot easier when you're in the game playing and you see how it works, and you get it right away. But it's kind of a wordy explanation compared to the actual like gameplay from my experience.
No, I know. I am. So one of the things that I'm really bad at is like I do a terrible job of like being concise about breaking these things down. So you're right. It's I appreciate the vote of confidence. It is actually, I'm a better game writer than I am like person that I get lost on a rabbit trail with these things.
Well,
but yeah.
Well, and the other thing too in Open Legend, your ability, your stats, they actually add extra dice to your rolls, and those are the things that get disadvantaged and advantaged, not the actual D20, which could be a little confusing because a lot of our crowd here's advantage or disadvantage. They think the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons mechanic, which it's very similar, but it generally doesn't apply to the D20.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I tried to highlight that part, because that's the key.
Yeah.
It's like it just applies to everything except the d20. And if you have a 0, then it applies to d20 because that's the only thing you have. But other than that, if you don't have a 0, then it applies to the attribute dice. But the cool thing is, so these concepts in Open Legend, the mechanical concepts, sometimes they can be a bit loaded. But the interesting part is it's so streamlined that once you learn these principles, it applies everywhere. Like you don't have to learn different like subsets of like the rules mechanics. It's like you can, once you learn it, you can play a whirlwind fighter that attacks everybody around them, or you can play a mage that's like, releasing these like gigantic burst attacks all the time. Like, and in the system, it's the same thing. So,
I was just laughing at the chat, but yeah, like we had a lot of fun, and we did like my character did like a couple of those Hail Marys where I'm like, all right, I take all the disadvantage and try and heal the party. And it works, a couple times, and a couple times it didn't. And that was a lot of fun game. I would love to pick that up again.
Yeah, man, we should.
Especially after that ending.
That was a good ending. I thought it was a fun ending. You guys got. Yeah, the Hail Mary happened on my end in the end, didn't it? Because I was like multi-attacking like all the group of you, and then got a huge roll and just KO'd everybody, which was funny.
Hilarious.
The DM's definition of funny is not to be trusted.
Yeah. So for us, it's always the struggle to get more games in. We've got like 3 games that we run once a month, and so we've got like 2 long-standing games, and then we have one of our friends that runs for us, and he does these short campaign arcs. But if you're doing 6 sessions and you're gaming once a month, it's 6 months. It's 6 months down the road before we switch up systems.
Yeah, totally.
And we've been kind of using his game to do just that, to switch out and play different systems. Mm-hmm. And one of the things as Nerdarchy we like to do is we like to expose our audiences to different games and different systems. Absolutely. And I feel like to effectively do that, we have to play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons and talk about a lot of Dungeons & Dragons to keep people coming in so they can hear about these other games. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I think that's great. And, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's an awesome mission. And for Open Legend, I mean, I had a similar goal. I think a lot of systems that come out, and the reason that I made my own system rather than sort of like playing something else that's out there is because I feel like in a lot of ways people are when they make a game, they're trying to create a differentiating factor, which I think is absolutely essential. Like from a business perspective, like. Yeah, make it different. It needs to feel different. It needs to be unique. Like I wouldn't play it if it just felt like it was Dungeons & Dragons. But there's certain aspects of Dungeons & Dragons that I feel like a lot of other systems, they cut out the fun. You know what I mean? And so like with this exploding dice aspect, it was a nod to the fact that like, look, we are playing a game here, right? Like let's have fun. Sometimes some systems will get like so realistic where you feel like, I mean, for me, some people love that, and to each their own and that sort of thing. But there's something about the sort of lighthearted feel of like, oh, I could do anything, anything's possible, that kind of thing. So, in Open Legend, it's like any genre is possible, any like action could succeed against the worst odds and that sort of thing. But yeah, like, being able to play it for a long time over a campaign. And like Dungeons & Dragons just does such a good job at that, right? You know what I mean? Like that whole feel of like my home campaign that I run, for many years. Like I don't know about other people, but for me, a story, a campaign, a whole campaign will be like 2, 3, 4 years or something like that in my past anyway. And so I wanted to feel like it met that need, I guess, is if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Like, kind of to what you're speaking to is you have games that are so, we want to be super realistic and super mechanic heavy. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have these games where it's like everyone's an aspiring thespian, right?
Yeah,
I feel like me and you might be on the same page where we're in the middle. Like, we want to acknowledge the role-playing aspects, but we still want to acknowledge that it's a game and have fun with it as well.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, it really is just a game. I mean, we're adults playing make-believe, rolling funny shaped dice. So, and I feel like some gamers just take that story aspect so serious, and to the point where they're sacrificing the fun. And I guess that's their fun, and they can play that way. That's fine. But I feel like there's more of a middle ground for a lot of us.
And I like to have both ends of the spectrum in the same game. Like for me, like the real serious component, like I can get super into that. People who have played with me over the years know that, like, I have done like a changeling assassin, where I would kill somebody and take on their identity for like long periods of like this story arc, right? And I was super into it. You know what I mean? Like, the whole idea of being really deep in the role play aspects and stuff. And I love that part. You know what I mean? But I still want to have like rewarding mechanics that make it so that my choices aren't just a matter of, me saying that something happens and then the GM has to just be like, yeah, okay, yes, that happens. You know what I mean? Like sometimes if there's just like a really narrow scope of mechanical like options, then that for me, that's like, that's just a turn off a bit for me from a gaming perspective or style perspective, So, but anyway, yeah. So, but I agree with you. I think that was a huge goal for me with Open Legend, is walking the middle, because the systems that are so completely freeform, they don't feel like they're creating a mechanical integration of your character's development over time, and then the ones that are too mechanically heavy, just for me, it's just overwhelming. You know what I mean? That's the only problem there, So yeah, walking the line in the middle was my goal with it. And I think D&D does a great job of that, right? One of the best, that's why it's so prevalent, and that and the fact that they were there first and have been around for forever. But
so kind of speaking to kind of like backtracking a little bit about the game you said you actually want to run, like that's exactly it. You want to you're talking about kind of like running the gamers game, for like average gamers, where when you look at Acquisition Inc. and Critical Role and Harmon Quest, where you have super high end people doing the RP and for entertainment. We've done several videos kind of like on that, and I just wonder at some point if you're coming to the hobby for the first time, and you've never played a role-playing game before, and that's your first exposure, I wonder how that affects somebody. Like, are they like, is that what I have to do to play this game, or does it make them want to play, or somewhere's in between?
Go
ahead.
You must method act for a week beforehand, or you will fail.
Yeah. Well, and my goal with the show is to actually include those people, and sort of bring it down in a way, right? Like, I think that Bronze Girl from Hyper RPG, I think she's a stellar role player. She's like, I think she could totally be, on these shows like Critical Role and stuff like that. And I hope to have her like as a cast member. And so it's like, but hey, let's take a step back from that. Let's sort of say like, hey, break down the fourth wall. Like, and actually I'm thinking in the show, that we might even talk just like, or like, well, what made you make that decision, right? Like a improv-y role-playing decision in the middle of a show. Just like talk about it for like a quick moment, not like a long time, but you know what I mean? Like to make people feel like they can do that too. That's kind of like my goal. You know what I mean? It's interesting. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I agree with you about it. There's a sense of unapproachable that can happen with that. And we've had a lot of those people, like, because of Matt Mercer being involved with the Kickstarter, there's a huge number of people that follow Critical Role. And I've been lucky to be able to run Open Legend with some of these folks. Like I have some people who I know who have been always interested in D&D, but they never played it. Like they even had the books, but they just never felt like they could understand how to like take the first step, which is interesting. I mean, for me, I didn't have that experience personally. right? When I started playing role-playing games when I was 13 years old. But you know, it's interesting to hear people who have like wanted to play D&D for like, you know, 15 years or something like that. You know what I mean? Like they always thought it would be cool, but they never did it. And so I think there's a lot of that with like the Critical Role crowd. I think there are people out there who are kind of lurkers, you know, and I wanted to make those people feel welcome. Go ahead.
We got a comment or a message or an email, I don't remember which, from someone like, they're like, since the existence of D&D, I've collected every single thing that has come out, but I've never played the game. I just like reading it. And I've heard other people go, yeah, I was kind of interested in it, but I never thought it was smart enough.
Right.
Which, you know, obviously you haven't seen some of the people that play the game, but like anybody can play this game. Anybody can learn, you know, it's just a matter of, you know, diving in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is weird, and it is cool too. Like we're living in this golden age where people can see, you know, see the game being played at all different levels too, and that's also why, you know, we've had internal debates within Nerdarchy about like who do we want to have at the table and who should we have at the table, and why we've done some things where we've kind of kept it open and people haven't liked it, and like at one point we had a toddler running back and forth across the table, you know, and we're like, well, you know, this happens, like all kinds of people play this game.
Right.
Telephone.
Yeah.
You know, and I personally kind of like to show that in our games as well, you know, because I want to attract more people into the hobby. I want different people to check it out and go, oh, I can do this thing.
Absolutely. That's a huge part of my goal. And so like one of the ways that like, you know, I'm trying to support that. So people, if anybody has just hearing about Open Legend for the first time, you should know that the rules are free. So openlegendrpg.com, core rules, it's all there. And then also we have an intro adventure module on DriveThruRPG. So it's called A Star Once Fallen, and go download it. It's free. Pay what you want, which means just put 0 in, no problem from my end. And then in there we talk a lot about, we did something which I just heard feedback from somebody recently that said it was one of their favorite adventure modules that they've played, because it doesn't like assume like if you say this to this NPC, then they do this, and then you go to this part, right? It's kind of more like sandbox approach and more open-ended, and it just kind of says, you know, maybe this happens, or maybe that, or, you know, maybe this NPC thinks this, or, you know, if you already interacted with this person, then they could possibly, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's very, very like open to interpretation. And it includes even stuff like for first-time role players, like it'll say, you know, maybe use a funny voice for this particular NPC, or, you know, like, and it kind of tries to give suggestions about how you could play the game out to make it feel approachable. And I think it's great. I'm really happy with that approach, and I think that a lot of other people are enjoying it too. So it kind of coaches along with the adventure. Also, there is a link in the description of the watch page here, guys, to the Open Legend system, so you can make it really easy for you to find it. But it also comes right up if you type in Open Legend RPG. Yep. Cool. So, yeah. So that's my that's my take on it. Anyway, I think that approachability is huge, because I think we're in a time where like there's a shift, like, where you have things like Stranger Things that are making playing D&D seem a lot more mainstream. And I feel like I can observe and see just people that you think that would not have been into it, you know, a couple years ago now, who are open to the idea. You know what I mean? And so I want it. And so Open Legend is also aiming to be like, hey, you know, you can just play, like, you can just steal the story from like your favorite video game. So, you know, like we have people that play like they have a Mass Effect Open Legend campaign, right? You know what I mean? You can just use this system to translate whatever story you are interested in. It doesn't have to be, you know, like the specific thing, you know, that's fantasy and all this other stuff that's kind of baked in, you know.
So I was looking in the chat, and you know, someone had asked the question if young people are actually coming into this game. Well, if you watch Nerdarchy Ted's game, you see my son 16 is playing, and he started playing with us, and he was very hesitant about joining our games because they're recorded, and eventually he broke down and, you know, decided that he wanted to play more than he was concerned about being recorded. So there's people are coming into this hobby every day, and with the internet, it makes it so much easier to find games online, to connect, to learn about the hobby. You guys have it so easy, you don't even know. It was like going on a quest to find people that play the game
without being socially ostracized.
Well, that was one of the hazards or monsters, as the case may be.
One of the wandering monsters. It's like those bad cards that you pull off in like a board game, like exile, go directly to jail. Do not talk to any of your friends any longer.
Ever again. Exactly. And now you got famous people that are like Vin Diesel who are playing with Matt Mercer. So
it's crazy, isn't it? It's cool. I'm excited for it. I think it's great. And there's no question about the fact that new people are coming in. Just to put like a point on that, I could be wrong about this number. I'm really worried about quoting the wrong number. Is it like I feel like it was 2015 was like the whole industry grossed $300 million, and 2016 it was like 400 million or something like that as like an industry. So that's like obviously huge, because if that growth were year over year, then it would be much bigger than it is currently. So it's picking up steam. It's not just on an uptrend. It's on a Gaussian uptrend, if I can use a math term.
Well, things like video games make tabletop role playing so much more accessible now too, because there was a time then that was a nerdy thing, and now that's mainstream, and now we're seeing television shows and like Stranger Things or oh damn it, fell right out of my head. I don't actually watch the show, but
what is? I'm trying to think.
Like the one with Sheldon in it.
What?
Big Bang Theory. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So more and more people are getting exposed to the idea of and playing role playing games. I believe one of my friends online that has another channel, GM Juice. After Stranger Things came out, he had coworkers approaching him about asking questions about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they knew it played. So it's definitely like all these things that are coming out and they're breaking the ice for us as gamers and getting more people into it. And now being nerdy is kind of chic. So
yeah. Well, also, I mean, I hate to play the sociologist if I risk making myself look like an idiot by saying this, but I think that to be honest, with the future, with robots and automation, which is like a very real thing. Some people have mixed feelings about this, but like McDonald's really is going to eventually replace the human staff, right? And I think that the gaming industry is going to grow, because what's going to happen is people, as society becomes more efficient, without getting into like the grim details of it, as society becomes more efficient, people have more time. And I think it opens up more potential for, like one of the problems with tabletop role-playing games is that it's not like your like weekly 1 hour television show that fits into this nice small block of time. Like if you play in person, you have to drive there. Typically a session is 3 hours, that kind of stuff. And I think what's happening is that, people are going to have it continually. It's going to increase as time goes on, that people have more time. And then this kind of a thing, which is maybe, in addition to the social, like the stigma going away, there's also the aspect of people just having more time to pursue, games in general. You know what I mean? More
leisure time.
Yeah.
And looking for that social interaction that they're not going to be getting from saying hi to the mechanical teller at such and such a place.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, kind of like backtracking a bit, you had mentioned about people using Open Legend to play their favorite video games as a tabletop. Well, we always get that question: how do I play play D&D as Skyrim, or make this thing from Skyrim? And a lot of times we just want to say, well, D&D is really only good at doing D&D.
Right.
Once the further away you get away from D&D, the system starts to fall apart.
Yep.
But there are other systems like Open Legend, Fate, Mutants and Masterminds, where they are a little more generic and you can do more things with them.
Yep.
And so definitely there's definitely a niche in the need.
Absolutely. Also, before I forget, if anybody has questions about like how can I run my Mass Effect game, with Open Legend, if you go to Open Legend RPG and you look under resources in the navigation, there's a link to our Discord server. So a lot of the folks who are helping out in chat and probably have already answered your questions, they can continue to do that if you want more help. There's a whole team of moderators over there who are always happy to answer people's questions about the game. And it's a real good community that we have over there. So if you want to continue the conversation, then just jump over there.
Good, because my kids are itching to play a Minecraft tabletop game.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I think I'll do. I was going to do No Thank You Evil, but I think Open Legend is going to be more their level of math. They're really into math. So
okay, nice.
No Thank You Evil is like for young kids, but my kids are like top of their class kind of. So
nice.
I think they'll like the extra math and rolling more dice.
I would love to hear. I'd love to hear how it goes with them. Because I have one of the things I haven't done a lot of is testing, with kids. But I feel like, like games like like maybe Pathfinder, where you end up like having to track so many different resources, like and bonuses and stuff like that. I think is tough for it's tough for me. That's why I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? Like I've played Pathfinder and there are a lot of great things about it, but it's just too much to keep track of in my head, Anyway, I think there's a reduction in that level of like cognitive burden or like cognitive load. And I would be really curious to see how it plays out with kids, because my personal thought is exactly like you said. I've always thought even like a 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, maybe not 6, but whatever, 7, 8, 9-year-old, if they're intelligent enough, I think they could definitely play Open Legend. And I've always been curious like to see how that would play out for people.
Well, they're 8 and 7, so I'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll have to read the book first. You said there's rules on your website, right?
Yeah, it's all free right there on the website. So just dig in.
Now, I had seen in the chat something about a PDF.
Yep.
Is that something that's happening?
So there's a PDF coming out as part of, to justify me spending like, twice the number of hours a week on Open Legend as I do on my day job. We're going to charge for the PDF, but there will be there's going to be an SRD. So there is an SRD already. It's kind of hidden on the website, but it's very outdated. So don't trust it because I haven't updated it for a while. But basically, for third-party contributors, people who want to create a campaign setting or an adventure module for Open Legend, we have an Open Legend community license. And what we've done, it took me a long time to come up with this. A lot of people will do like, you've got like Eclipse phase where the whole thing is like Creative Commons license, and you can just you just have to attribute them and you can do whatever you want with the text. I wanted to like maintain a little bit of ownership, but not do like, I think like 5th edition maybe backtracked on this, like D&D, but originally they had a thing where they released the SRD, but it didn't have access to all the abilities, or it was like a limited subset of the rules or something. So Open Legends SRD will give all of the rules. So there's no exception or omission of the core rules, but things like advice and explanatory text and that kind of stuff is stripped out. And then anything that's in that SRD document, you can publish with a community license. You can use the special logo for it. And so that means you can get access to all the rules you need, all the banes, boons, feats, attributes, all that stuff is in there. And you can publish your own content for it. So, but that's the only PDF I know of. Other than that, it's just the PDFs of the Amoria's Dawn campaign setting and the core rules themselves, which will be forever a paid item, and that's coming out. So like our backers will be getting that in like a couple months or something like that. So
cool. It definitely makes it a lot easier than having to refer to the website. I mean, it's nice that the website's there and you can access it for free.
Yep.
But yeah, I would definitely pay for just to have the PDF.
Yep. And that's the thought.
so that I could have it in front of me, just like I would pay for the hardback book. I am paying for the hardback book. I forget what level we backed at, but one of the higher tiers, because we really enjoyed what you're doing there and wanted to support the project.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So there will be a PDF, and once the backers have theirs, then it'll go onto a not yet existing store on the Open Legends site where you can buy that. So yeah.
Excellent. So we are probably getting right around to that hour mark, so we're gonna cut it off here. But we really do appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us, Brian. Guys, go into the description, click that link, check out Open Legend. It's free. It's a fun system. Exploding dice is cool. And you know what? The system is probably so much better than when I even looked at it before, because Brian is a workhorse and he is relentless. So guys, until next time, stay nerdy.
All right.